Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. Today's technique for 5th Kyu, green belt with a stripe, is Nihon nukite. We really have 3 versions of this that I teach. Again, whether it's legitimate Seidokan, whether it's general Okinawan or Kung Fu, I don't know, but there are 3 that I teach. So the basic formations, I'll come into the camera here. Number 1 is the 2-finger poke. Fingers are here, we poke, just like Larry and Curly used to teach, but then I grip and pull. You can kind of picture, if we get into the eyes, what that might do. This is the main part. Do they have to be perfectly straight? I wouldn't do that. I'd keep a little bend in them, okay? And I'll talk a little bit about that later in form versus function, but that's version A. Version B is the fingers stay together, so I take my basic nukite, spear hand, where my hand is all the way as flat and maybe up a little bit, and then curved at the first knuckle, and then, or at the third knuckle, and then again down, so I have this curve here to strengthen and tighten the hand, and again, I'll get to that in a minute. That's my basic nukite, but I pull the bottom 2 fingers in, and now I have Nihon nukite. Now, if I don't have the strength to pull up here and get this bend at this knuckle, and then again at this knuckle, if I haven't developed the muscles to do that, when I pull these 2 fingers in, then this is going to happen. And that's pretty useless as a weapon. I want to be able to hold that up and have some strength in it and curl these 2 fingers down so they're in and alongside. This version of Nihon nukite is called the Immortal Man in Kung Fu systems, Kempo systems sometimes. Okay, striking with the 2 fingers thusly. So the knife hand, the spear hand, and the Nihon nukite, or the Immortal Man, then pulling the fingers all the way down and opening the 2-finger spear, Larry, Moe, and Curly style. The third one is a little more obscure, and I don't do it well with my left hand, but it's the old Spock, and this is sometimes called a snake's tooth strike, striking here, which is pretty much exclusively an eye shot. Now, with those 3 Nihon nukite formations, this is where we talk a little bit about aesthetic versus function, form versus function. The pretty perfect. This is the knife hand as I teach it, but it's to train the muscles, because when I actually strike, I'll take you over to Makiwara Sensei here for just a moment. When we actually strike, I don't keep my fingers as perfectly together as I started with them formed. They're gonna spread and loosen, and my thumb may even come out just a little bit. And so what I end up with is my hand in this position as opposed to this position at the end of the strike. I start it tight, and then it sort of loosens and opens. Same happens with the nukite and Nihon nukite, the spear and the 2-finger spear, that I want to strike with my 2 fingers, thusly, to the eyes, with my fingers tight. But as I actually strike, they may open out a little bit. And now, from here, my hand like this is actually almost closer to the Immortal Man strike, to the snake's tooth, so I'm not as concerned about where exactly are the non-striking parts of my fingers. So why then do we train for that pretty knife hand, that pretty 2-finger poke, that pretty Immortal Man strike? Why do we train to have the fingers in the perfect position, knowing that in real life I'm just going to open my fingers and put them out in his face and hope to find the eyes or something that's going to make him flinch, turn, hurt, cry, eye water, something. So if I do this and my 2 fingers separate here, I started with my hand open, and as I strike, they became the snake's tooth. Okay, I started here and I go to poke his eyes, and I only caught him with these 2. Okay, I go to poke his eyes, and my hands, then it becomes this one. So the form trains the muscles, and the function might deteriorate from that a little bit. Similar to the discussion I had about the back kick. Is the back kick perfectly straight down toes, foot, or do you allow it to turn a little bit as you kick? Does the momentum of turning with the back kick keeping the toes straight down, or let the momentum of the turn, it turns out a little bit? In a fight, in self-defense, the real answer is, who cares? Did I hit him hard? You get the guys, you see the old former military guys all over YouTube, karate sucks, do it my way. And they think kata is a waste of time and you should only train the way you're actually going to fight, so only ever always do your fingers here, never learn to do this, never learn to do this, just keep your fingers open and jab, very Bruce Lee-esque, okay? Pure function, that's great, that's fine. But in karate, we strive for a little bit more than just pure function. Think of it like a basketball team running a drill, then running a play with no defense, then putting defense against the play, but only just kind of token pressure, and then letting the defense go live and really try to disrupt the play. Does that mean I should never run the play? Should I never shoot a layup drill just because I know eventually I'm going to pass, cut, and then catch and shoot, as opposed to dribble in and shoot? So should I never dribble in and shoot? No, because there's a time and a place for that in the game. Should I never run the play without defense? Well, of course, I have to learn the pattern at some point. Then when the defense comes in, why don't they try hard right off the bat? Well, because we haven't perfected it with another person in front of us yet. And so there's a progression between beautiful form, I made the perfect pass, I made the perfect cut to the basket, I got the perfect catch, I made the perfect layup. Then the defense comes in, and now maybe my layup, instead of being perfectly here, comes outside this way. Or maybe I'm jumping off the other foot or having to adjust somehow because of him. So taking what was perfect and then learning to adjust it on the fly, does that mean the perfect was a waste of time? No, because sometimes it will happen with any luck. Every now and then somebody runs that play and it's like to perfection, as if the defense wasn't even there, even though they are and they were trying. But they ran it so perfectly that it came out exactly like it was drawn in the playbook. That's kata. That's what we're striving for. Am I ever going to actually catch a punch in a real fight in midair? Maybe. Could happen. Is it likely? Depends on how skilled the guy fighting is. So there are a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. We practice an individual technique, an individual shot, an individual layup, an individual pass. We practice in karate individual techniques. Then we do the play. We put a combination of techniques together against zero resistance. Then we have a token resistance, the standard karate step in and punch. We do the technique again. Oh, I caught his fist. Now we put it in sparring, and I blocked, but I didn't catch his fist because he pulled it back, but I still managed to get my kick and follow up the back kick. But my foot wasn't completely straight down, but I still got him in the stomach and knocked him backwards. Does that mean that all of my perfect practice was wasted? Or does that simply mean that I know the play well enough that I was able to execute it in spite of the difficulties presented to me? The raid on Osama bin Laden was planned and practiced to ballet perfection in the practice facility. They get to his place. They don't know for sure how many people are going to be in there. A helicopter crashes outside the gate. They kind of had planned for that, but it was a different position. So instead of going in this door, they went in that door. We make changes on the battlefield. Perfect technique, battlefield change. It's not really any different. The only difference is on the continuum of pretty versus functional, where is your karate? Do we abandon the pretty, skip kata, and spar all the time and just do sparring drills? Well, then we haven't run the play without defense, but we have run the play against a compliant opponent. Even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, they all do this. Compliant opponent, practice, get the technique down before resistance is applied. Now resistance is applied. Does everything go exactly the way you practiced when there was no resistance? Of course not. But we practice so that there's some connection between the pursuit of perfection of technique and the realistic application of technique and knowing when and where. I've seen ugly kata from guys who can really fight. And I've seen beautiful kata from guys who can't fight their way out of a plastic bag. Bill Wallace, in doing his one of the movies he was in with Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan does beautiful things, but he gets 9 takes, 47 injuries to get 1 shot that ends up on film. And Bill Wallace was a full contact professional fighter with a highly successful full contact career, knocking people out for real. According to Bill, Jackie Chan's not a real fighter. He couldn't really fight like a fighter fights. You'll see that a lot. In karate, are we working to be a fighter? Or are we working to develop ourselves and defend ourselves against random guys, not trained fighters? Or are you training for the MMA ring? What are you training for? And that identifying your purpose in training will to a great extent determine your ability to take what's an ideal form and apply it in a less than ideal situation, just like you do in any other sport in the world. Sorry, I just called karate a sport. It's not. Okay, so Nihon nukite, 3 versions. 2-finger poke, snake's tooth strike, immortal man. That's it for the day. Practice on actual impact tools. Do your fingertip push-ups, or practice to make them pretty and never even use them in real life self-defense. Whatever floats your boat. Thanks for joining. That's my spiel. It was random and rambly. Hopefully it made some sense in your head. And until next week, as always, let's all keep practicing.